The Galactic Confederation Council chamber had never been this tense. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated areas, but nobody was talking. They all watched the center display, which showed the glowing remains of Jathir Prime. The planet that had been home to 14 billion souls was now a lifeless rock, its surface still cooling from the bombardment. The Confederation chairman Vorash finally broke the silence. What the humans did violates every law we have. It violates every principle of civilized warfare. We must take action. What action? The Vorlani ambassador asked. Her voice carried fear that she couldn't hide. Did you see what they did? 200 warships destroyed in a few hours. An entire planet rendered uninhabitable. What exactly do you propose we do against that level of military power? Sanctions, suggested the Crixian ambassador. Economic isolation. Refuse to trade with them. Refuse to share technology. They don't need our technology, another ambassador said. They've been building their own in secret for 80 years. Their weapons are more advanced than anything we have. And as for trade, we need their resources more than they need ours. The debate went on for hours. Some species wanted to condemn humanity and expel them from the Confederation. Others wanted to do nothing, afraid of becoming the next target. A few even suggested forming an alliance against Earth, a unified military force to contain the threat. That suggestion died quickly when someone pointed out that such an alliance would require an actual war with humanity. Nobody wanted that. They had all seen what happened to the Jathir. Finally, the council voted on a formal condemnation. 23 species voted in favor. 19 voted against. 5 abstained. The condemnation passed, but barely. It accused humanity of genocide and war crimes. It called for Earth to face justice under Confederation law. Secretary General Amara Okonkwo received the condemnation in her office in Geneva. She read it once, then recorded a response that was broadcast across the entire galaxy. To the Galactic Confederation, she began, her voice calm and steady. You have condemned us for our actions at Jathir Prime. You call it genocide. You call it a war crime. You demand we face justice. Very well. Let me respond. She leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. The Jathir attacked a civilian station. They killed 3,200 humans who were mining and researching and raising their families. They did this without warning, without cause, without mercy. They broadcast their massacre across the galaxy as entertainment. And what did the Confederation do? You offered us thoughts and concerns. You suggested we form a committee. You told us to respond proportionally. Her voice grew harder. We asked for justice. You offered us paperwork. So we took justice into our own hands. Yes, we killed 14 billion Jathir. Yes, we destroyed their entire world. This was not proportional. This was not fair. This was a message written in fire and blood. A message the galaxy will never forget. Do not touch humanity. She stood up. You call us monsters. Perhaps you're right. But we are monsters that you created. For 80 years, we came to you in friendship. We shared our culture, our knowledge, our dreams. We tried to be good neighbors in this galaxy, and when we were attacked, you did nothing. You proved that your laws only protect the strong, and that the weak must protect themselves. Amara's expression softened slightly. We are formally withdrawing from the Galactic Confederation. We will no longer follow your laws or attend your councils. Instead, we offer a new arrangement. Any species that wishes to sign a mutual defense pact with humanity is welcome to do so. The terms are simple. Attack one of us, face all of us. We will protect our allies with the same ferocity we showed at Jathir Prime. The transmission ended. Within 24 hours, 12 species requested meetings to discuss mutual defense pacts with humanity. Within a week, the first pacts were signed. The Terran Alliance was born, a rival to the Confederation built on the simple principle of mutual protection. On Earth, the reaction to Jathir Prime was divided. Half the population celebrated. They held rallies in major cities, waving flags and chanting slogans about human strength. They learned their lesson, people said. No one will ever attack us again. Marcus Webb's grandfather gave another interview, saying that his grandson's death had been avenged. He seemed satisfied, though his eyes remained sad. The other half of humanity was horrified. Protests erupted in every major city. People carried signs saying, "Not in our name," and "We are not genociders." They argued that humanity had become the very monsters they claimed to fight against. Churches held prayer vigils for the billions of dead Jathir. Universities hosted debates about the morality of collective punishment. The protests and counter-protests sometimes turned violent. In New York, supporters and opponents of the bombardment clashed in the streets. In London, a memorial to the Jather victims was vandalized within hours of being erected. In Tokyo, peace activists occupied government buildings. The Earth government struggled to maintain order. Secretary General Okonkwo addressed the planet, trying to explain the decision. I know many of you are troubled by what we did. I'm troubled too. But I ask you to consider the alternative. If we had responded proportionally, if we had just destroyed their military fleet and left, what message would that send? That you can kill 3,000 humans and face only military consequences. That you can test us, probe our boundaries, attack our people. In 10 years, 20 years, someone else would try. And more humans would die. She continued. What we did was terrible. But it was also necessary. We bought peace for our children with Jather blood. We created a deterrent so powerful that no species will ever attack us again. Was it worth it? History will have to judge. But I believe we did what we had to do to ensure human survival in a dangerous galaxy. Admiral Kenji Tanaka returned to Earth as both a hero and a war criminal. Half the planet wanted him promoted and given medals. The other half wanted him court-martialed and imprisoned. Death threats arrived daily. So did marriage proposals and job offers. The government decided on a middle path. Tanaka was promoted to Fleet Admiral and given command of the Outer Rim Defense Force. But he was also required to testify before a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where he had to explain every decision he made during the battle. Tanaka sat in the hearing room for 3 weeks answering questions. Sometimes the questions came from supporters who wanted to understand his brilliant tactics. Sometimes they came from opponents who wanted to expose him as a monster. He answered them all with the same flat, honest tone. Did you have any doubts about destroying the planet? One commissioner asked. Every second of every day, Tanaka replied. I still do. I'll doubt it for the rest of my life. But doubt doesn't change necessity. I did what needed to be done. Do you feel remorse? I feel everything: remorse, guilt, shame, pride, relief, all of it at once. I killed 14 billion people to save how many future humans? We'll never know. Maybe I'm a mass murderer. Maybe I'm a savior. Probably I'm both. If you could go back, would you do it differently? Tanaka was quiet for a long moment. No, I'd do exactly the same thing. And I'd hate myself for it just as much. The commission ultimately decided not to prosecute him. The legal reasoning was complex, but it came down to this. Tanaka had followed orders from the legitimate government of Earth. If anyone was guilty, it was the entire human government, and you couldn't prosecute an entire government. Captain Sarah Martinez resigned from the military after returning to Earth. She couldn't serve anymore, not after what she'd witnessed. She moved to a small town in Colorado and became a teacher. Sometimes her students asked her about the war. She told them the truth, that she'd been part of something terrible, that she still had nightmares, that she didn't know if it was right or wrong. But I'll tell you this, she'd say. Since that day, not a single alien species has attacked a human world. Not one. Maybe that's worth something. Maybe it's not. You'll have to decide for yourselves. The Jather survivors numbered about 400,000. They had been living on colonies and mining stations when their homeworld died. Humanity made them an offer. Come live under human protection. We'll give you a planet. We'll help you rebuild. Most of the Jather refused. They couldn't accept help from the species that had destroyed their world. They scattered across the galaxy, refugees seeking homes among other species. Some Confederation members took them in. Others refused, not wanting to anger humanity. But a small group of Jather, about 50,000, accepted humanity's offer. They settled on a planet in human-controlled space, a world they named New Jather. It was a strange, uncomfortable arrangement. The Jather lived under the protection of the species that had committed genocide against them. A human reporter interviewed one of the New Jather leaders, asking why they accepted the offer. The Jather, an elderly female named Sekatira, thought carefully before answering. Because we understand now, she said. We understand what we did wrong. Our leaders thought humans were weak because they sought peace. They thought your restraint was inability. They were wrong. You sought peace because you understood war better than we did. And when you finally made war, you made it absolutely. She paused. Living here is humiliating. It's painful. On the surface of Jather Prime, billions of citizens looked up at their sky. They could see the lights of their defense fleet in orbit, 200 warships positioned to protect their world. Beyond them, barely visible, were the dots of light that marked the human fleet. To the Jathir civilians below, their military seemed strong enough to handle any threat. They didn't understand what was coming. Grand Commander Zekthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inevitable. Around him, the entire Jathir battle fleet held formation. Every ship his empire possessed was here, from massive dreadnoughts to small fighter craft. He felt confident. The humans had maybe destroyed some patrol ships with surprise attacks, but this was different. This was the full might of a warrior species. They gave us 1 hour to evacuate, his second-in-command said. What do we do? Zekthar made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. It's a bluff. They want us to panic and run. Instead, we'll destroy them. Open a channel. His face appeared on screens across the human fleet. Humans, you have made a grave mistake. You destroyed some of our outer patrols, and now you think you can challenge our empire. We are warriors. We have fought 100 wars. What are you? Scientists and merchants playing at soldiers. Turn back now, or we will crush you like we crushed your pathetic station. Admiral Tanaka listened to the speech without expression. When Zekthar finished, Tanaka didn't respond. He simply checked his chronometer. 1 hour begins now. Weapons free in 60 minutes. The hour passed slowly. On Jathir Prime, government officials scrambled to board evacuation ships. But there weren't nearly enough ships. A planet of 14 billion needed thousands of vessels to evacuate even a fraction of its population. They had maybe 200 transport ships, and most of those were small. Parents tried to get their children on the ships. Families were torn apart. The wealthy used their influence to jump to the front of lines. The poor watched helplessly as their only chances of survival departed without them. In the cities, some Jathir rioted, others prayed to their gods. Most just waited, hoping their military would protect them. In orbit, the military fleet prepared for battle. Captains checked their weapons systems and shield generators. Fighter pilots climbed into their craft. Gunners loaded their plasma cannons. They had fought many species before. They would fight the humans now. Grand Commander Zekthar broadcast to his fleet. Today we show the galaxy that the Jathir Empire cannot be challenged. These mammals came to our home thinking they could threaten us. We will destroy them so thoroughly that humans will never leave their own system again. For the Empire! For the Empire! 200 ships echoed back. The hour ended. Admiral Tanaka gave a simple order. All ships advance. Engage at will. The human fleet moved forward in perfect formation. The Jathir fleet charged to meet them. The two forces collided in the space between the fleet and the planet, and the largest space battle in galactic history began. The Jathir struck first. Plasma cannons fired from 200 ships, creating a wall of superheated gas. The human ships activated their shields, and most of the plasma dissipated harmlessly. But some shots got through. 3 human vessels took damage, their hulls scarred and burning. Return fire, Tanaka ordered calmly. The human fleet unleashed its arsenal. Relativistic impactors launched from railguns, crossing the distance in fractions of a second. Each projectile carried the energy of multiple nuclear weapons. When they hit Jathir vessels, the ships didn't just explode. They disintegrated, turned into expanding clouds of superheated plasma and debris. The Jathir fleet commanders realized within the first minutes that they were outmatched. Their shields couldn't stop the human weapons. Their armor meant nothing. Ships that had survived a dozen battles were destroyed in seconds. Launch all fighters, Zekthar ordered desperately. Thousands of Jathir fighter craft poured out of their carrier ships, swarming toward the human fleet. It was a classic tactic that had worked in many previous wars. Overwhelm the enemy with numbers. The human ships activated their point defense systems. Automated turrets tracked and destroyed incoming fighters with terrifying efficiency. The systems had been designed to intercept missiles traveling at high speeds. Against fighters, they were even more effective. 97% of the Jathir fighters were destroyed before they could even fire their weapons. The few that got through launched missiles at the human ships. But human electronic warfare systems hacked into the missiles' guidance systems and turned them back toward Jathir vessels. The fighters watched in horror as their own weapons destroyed their own ships. Captain Martinez stood at her station aboard the Indomitable, watching the battle unfold. It wasn't really a battle. It was a massacre. The Jathir were brave, she had to give them that. They kept fighting even as their ships died around them. But bravery couldn't overcome technology. It couldn't overcome the fact that humanity had spent 80 years preparing for this exact scenario. Deploy nanoswarms, Admiral Tanaka ordered. Missiles launched from the human fleet, but they didn't explode. They released clouds of microscopic machines that swept across the battlefield like invisible death. When they encountered Jothir ships, they covered the hulls and began to consume them. Metal, plastic, circuits, everything was broken down and used to create more nanomachines. Jothir crews watched their ships being eaten from the outside in. They tried everything. They vented atmosphere to blow the swarms away. They fired their weapons blindly, hoping to destroy the nanomachines. They rammed their ships into each other, trying to scrape the swarms off. Nothing worked. The nanomachines were too small, too numerous, too efficient. One by one, Jothir warships collapsed into clouds of gray dust that drifted through space like ghosts. 2 hours into the battle, half the Jothir fleet was destroyed. Grand Commander Zekthar's flagship had taken heavy damage. Fires burned throughout the inevitable. His bridge crew was dead or dying. He opened a communication channel to the human fleet, his voice desperate. "Stop. Please, we surrender." "We didn't understand. We didn't know you were this powerful. Please, we—" A quantum disruption torpedo struck the inevitable before he could finish. The ship fell apart at the molecular level, breaking into billions of pieces that scattered across space. Zekthar's transmission cut off mid-word, just like Marcus Webb's had weeks before. The surviving Jothir ships tried to retreat. Some attempted to flee into deep space. Others tried to land on their homeworld, hoping the humans wouldn't fire on them near the planet. They were wrong on both counts. "No survivors," Admiral Tanaka said. "Hunt them all down." The human fleet split into groups. Some pursued the fleeing ships, destroying them one by one. Others moved toward the planet, intercepting ships trying to land. The hunt continued for another hour until the last Jothir military vessel was destroyed. The space around Jothir Prime was filled with debris and bodies. 200 warships, tens of thousands of trained military personnel, all gone. The human fleet had lost 12 ships destroyed and 37 damaged. It wasn't even close to a fair fight. Now the human fleet took up position in high orbit around Jothir Prime. On the planet below, 14 billion Jothir watched their protectors die. They knew what was coming next. A Confederation fleet arrived at the edge of the system. Ships from 20 different species coming to stop the humans. The Confederation chairman's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "Human fleet, this is the Galactic Confederation. You have defeated the Jothir military. Honor has been satisfied. Under Confederation law, you must cease hostilities immediately. Do not attack the civilian population." Admiral Tanaka responded for the first time since the battle began. "Chairman Varash, the Jothir attacked human civilians. They killed our children. They broadcast their massacre as entertainment. Confederation law means nothing to us anymore. Stay out of our way. If you do this, you'll be no better than them," the chairman pleaded. "You'll be committing genocide. The entire galaxy will turn against you." "Let them try," Tanaka said coldly. "We've just demonstrated what happens when someone challenges humanity. Does the Confederation want to be next?" The Confederation fleet held position. Not a single ship moved to interfere. They watched, and they did nothing because they were afraid. On the Indomitable, Captain Martinez approached Admiral Tanaka one last time. "Sir, there's still time to stop this. We've destroyed their military. We've proven our point. We don't have to kill billions of civilians." Tanaka looked at her with tired eyes. "Captain, do you remember the images from Kepler Station? The children's bodies floating in space? Marcus Webb's last message?" "Yes, sir. Do you think the Jothir would show mercy if they were in our position?" "No, sir. But that's what makes us different from them. We're supposed to be better." Tanaka stood up and walked to the viewport. Below them, Jothir Prime rotated slowly. A beautiful world full of life. Cities glittered on the night side. Oceans reflected the sun on the day side. It looked peaceful. It looked like Earth. "You're right, Captain. We are supposed to be better. But sometimes being better doesn't keep you alive. Sometimes you have to become a monster to prevent monsters from attacking you in the future." He turned back to his command chair and sat down heavily. "I've made my decision." Grand Commander Zekthar stood before the High Council of the Jothir Empire, basking in their praise. The council chamber was a massive dome of crystalline structures, fitting for the greatest military power in this sector of space. Thousands of Jathir civilians watched from viewing galleries above, their compound eyes glittering with pride. "You have brought glory to our empire," the supreme leader said, her voice resonating through the chamber. She was ancient by Jathir standards, her exoskeleton scarred from 100 battles. The humans needed to learn their place. "You taught them well." Sekthar bowed his head. "The mammals were weak, as we predicted. Their station had no real defenses. Their civilians died screaming and begging. It was almost disappointing." Laughter rippled through the council. One of the military advisors leaned forward. "Our intelligence reports suggest the humans are mobilizing their defense fleet. Perhaps 50 ships moving toward our border." "Let them come," Sekthar said confidently. "My battle fleet destroyed their outpost in less than an hour. What can their merchant vessels do against real warships? The humans play at war, but they don't understand it. They're too soft, too emotional. They'll probably want to negotiate." The Supreme Leader nodded. "Nevertheless, recall the outer patrol fleets. Move them to reinforce the border. We'll show the humans what happens when they challenge the Jathir Empire. Perhaps we'll destroy another of their stations just to make our point clear." Across Jathir space, celebrations continued for days. The massacre of Kepler Station was broadcast repeatedly, shown as proof of Jathir superiority. In schools, young Jathir learned about the glorious victory over the weak mammals. In military academies, officers studied the battle as an example of efficient conquest. None of them noticed the silence from the Galactic Confederation. None of them saw the other species pulling back their ships from human space. None of them realized that every major species in the galaxy was watching and waiting, holding their breath. The human fleet moved through space like a dark tide, 300 warships traveling in complete radio silence. No messages sent. No responses to hails. Just cold, calculated movement toward their target. Admiral Tanaka sat in his command chair, studying the tactical displays. They had been traveling for 2 weeks, jumping from system to system, avoiding all detection. His fleet navigated through empty space using asteroid fields and nebulae for cover. "Sir, we're approaching the Jathir border," Captain Martinez reported. "Our scouts have detected their picket line. Approximately 40 warships spread across this sector." Tanaka zoomed in on the display. The Jathir had positioned their ships in a defensive line, expecting the human fleet to announce itself and demand negotiation. They didn't understand that humanity wasn't coming to talk. "What's our weapon status?" Tanaka asked. "All systems green," replied Commander Williams from the weapons station. "Relativistic impactors charged and ready. Nanoswarm missiles loaded. Quantum torpedoes armed." "Good," Tanaka said. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, battle formation Delta." "We hit them hard and fast. No warnings, no mercy. No survivors." Sarah Martinez looked at him. "Sir, shouldn't we at least try to—" "They didn't warn Kepler Station," Tanaka said flatly. "They killed 3,000 civilians without a word. We're returning the favor." Before each jump, they transmitted something ahead of them. The transmission contained no words, no threats. Just the final 47 minutes of Kepler Station's existence. The screams, the explosions, the children crying. Marcus Webb's cut-off message to his family. It was psychological warfare at its finest. The message said everything without saying anything. "This is what you did. This is why we're coming." The human fleet dropped out of FTL directly on top of the Jathir picket line. The Jathir commanders barely had time to register the contacts before the shooting started. Commander Sekvar of the Jathir warship Conquest was the first to see them. His sensors suddenly showed 300 contacts appearing from nowhere. He opened a communication channel. "Attention human vessels, this is the Jathir Imperial Navy. You're entering restricted space. State your intentions or—" A relativistic impactor moving at 30%, the speed of light, struck his ship before he could finish speaking. The tungsten carbide rod hit with the force of multiple nuclear weapons. The Conquest simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. Across the picket line, 40 Jathir warships tried to respond. They activated their shields and returned fire. For the first few seconds, they thought they might have a chance. Then the human weapon systems fully engaged. Nanoswarm missiles launched from the human ships. These weren't normal missiles. They were clouds of billions of microscopic machines, each one programmed to consume and replicate. When they hit a Jathir vessel, they didn't explode. They burrowed into the hull and began eating the ship from the inside out. Within minutes, warships were collapsing into clouds of gray dust. Quantum disruption torpedoes tore through Jathir shields like they weren't there. These weapons operated on principles the Confederation had never seen. They disrupted the quantum bonds holding matter together. Ships hit by these torpedoes didn't burn or explode. They simply fell apart into their component atoms. The Jathir tried to run. Some ships turned and activated their FTL drives, trying to escape and warn their homeworld. The human fleet had prepared for this. Their targeting computers were faster, their calculations more precise. They shot the fleeing ships in the instant before they could jump, destroying their FTL drives and leaving them drifting in normal space. The battle lasted 14 minutes. When it ended, 40 Jathir warships were nothing but expanding clouds of debris and frozen bodies. Not a single ship escaped. Not a single distress call got through. Admiral Tanaka watched the destruction with no expression on his face. Continue to target any life pods or escape shuttles. No survivors, sir? Captain Martinez said uncertainly. Tanaka turned to her. Captain, if even one Jathir escapes and warns their homeworld, they'll evacuate their civilians. Our mission is to send a message that the galaxy will never forget. That requires the Jathir to not see us coming. Do you understand? Sarah understood. She didn't like it, but she understood. Yes, sir. Targeting life pods now. The human fleet's point defense systems, designed to shoot down incoming missiles, instead targeted the small escape pods tumbling through space. It was methodical. It was cold. It was exactly what the Jathir had done to the Kepler station shuttles. Across the Confederation, species with long-range sensors watched in shock. The Confederation Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 47 species gathered, their faces showing fear and confusion. The humans just destroyed an entire fleet, the Vorlani ambassador said. His species had been spacefaring for 3,000 years. I've never seen weapons like that. Their technology is generations ahead of what they showed us. They lied to us, the Crixian ambassador said angrily. They joined the Confederation and pretended to be peaceful explorers. All this time they were building weapons in secret. The Confederation chairman, an elderly Zelfin named Voresh, held up a tentacle for silence. We need to contact the human fleet. Tell them to stand down. This has gone far enough. They sent a message to the human fleet. It was a formal demand, invoking all the laws and treaties of the Confederation. It requested immediate cessation of hostilities and demanded the humans return for peace negotiations. Admiral Tanaka received the message on his command deck. He read it once, then deleted it without responding. Continue on course to the Jathir homeworld, he ordered. The Confederation sent more messages, pleas, threats, promises of sanctions. All of them went unanswered. The human fleet moved forward in silence, leaving only destruction in its wake. In the Jathir Empire, alarm bells finally started ringing. The picket fleet had stopped reporting in. Scout ships sent to investigate found only debris. The High Council convened an emergency session. How many ships did the humans bring? The Supreme Leader demanded. We don't know, the military advisor said nervously. The wreckage suggests at least 100 ships, possibly more. And their weapons. Our forces didn't have a chance, Zekthar stood up. This is impossible. The humans are merchants and scientists. They don't have this kind of military capability. Clearly they do, another council member said. The question is, what do we do now? The Supreme Leader made a decision. Recall every military vessel in the Empire. Every ship, every fighter, every defense platform. Bring them all to the homeworld. We have 200 warships across our territory. That's more than enough to destroy whatever fleet the humans have. What about our colonies? Someone asked. If we pull all our ships back, they'll be defenseless. The humans are coming here, the Supreme Leader said. To our home. We defend it with everything we have. Orders went out across the Jathir Empire. Every warship began the journey home. It would take them days to arrive, but when they did, the homeworld would have the strongest defense fleet in this sector of space. Meanwhile, civilian evacuation began on Jathir Prime. The planet held 14 billion Jathir citizens. There weren't enough ships to evacuate even a fraction of them. Priority went to government officials, military families, and the wealthy who could afford passage. 6 days after Kepler Station fell silent, the distress signal reached the nearest human military outpost. 3 days after that, it arrived at Earth. The quantum relay message carried full telemetry data, sensor recordings, and the last transmissions from the dying station. Secretary General Amara Okonkwo sat in her office in Geneva, watching the recordings for the third time. She was a tall woman in her 50s with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much of humanity's worst moments, but nothing had prepared her for this. She watched Marcus Webb's final message to his family. The young man's face filled the screen, his voice shaking but determined. "Mom, Dad, if you're seeing this, it means I didn't make it. I want you to know I love you. I want you to know I wasn't scared at the end." Well, that's a lie. I was terrified. But I did my job. I sent the message. Maybe it will help someone. Maybe it will. The transmission ended in static and fire. Amara closed her eyes. She had met Marcus's grandfather last year at a conference. A kind old man who taught history at a university. Now she would have to call him and explain that his grandson died screaming in space, killed by aliens who thought humans were weak. Her assistant, David, knocked on the door. "Ma'am, the full council is assembled. Earth, Mars, Europa Station, and representatives from all 43 colony worlds. They're waiting for you." Amara stood up and straightened her jacket. "And the Confederation? They've called an emergency session. They want to discuss the situation." "How thoughtful of them," Amara said, her voice cold. The council chamber was filled with angry voices when Amara entered. Governors and representatives from across human space were all talking at once. Some demanded immediate military action. Others urged caution. A few were crying. Amara walked to the podium and the room fell silent. She didn't speak right away. She let the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. "They killed 3,200 of our people," she finally said. "They killed miners and scientists. They killed teachers and engineers. They killed 147 children between the ages of 2 and 16. Someone in the audience sobbed. Amara continued, her voice steady and hard. "The Jathir broadcast their massacre to the Galactic Confederation. They wanted everyone to see it. They wanted to send a message that humans are weak, that we don't belong in space, that they can kill us whenever they want." "What did the Confederation say?" asked Governor Chen from Mars Colony. "The Confederation," Amara said slowly, "has offered their thoughts and concerns. They have proposed forming a committee to investigate. They suggest we respond proportionally, perhaps by destroying the Jathir fleet that attacked us." "That's it?" someone shouted. "A committee?" Amara nodded. "Many of the older species think we deserved this. They've been in space for thousands of years. To them, we're still children. Upstart newcomers who need to learn our place. Some of them are actually relieved that someone put us in our place." The room erupted in angry shouts. Amara let them vent for a moment, then raised her hand for silence. "But they're wrong. They think because we've only been in space for 200 years, we don't understand violence. They've forgotten where we come from." She pulled up a display showing Earth's history, wars and conflicts spanning thousands of years. "Before we reached the stars, we spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other. We fought with sticks and stones. We fought with swords and spears. We fought with guns and bombs and nuclear weapons. We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times. The display shifted to show the devastation of World War III, the nuclear fires that almost ended civilization in 2087. When we finally reached space, we made a choice. We decided to be better. We decided to offer friendship instead of war. But the galaxy has mistaken our choice for inability." Amara's eyes swept across the chamber. "They think we're peaceful because we're weak. They're about to learn the truth. We're peaceful because we understand war better than any species in the galaxy." "What are you proposing?" asked Admiral Harrison, the head of Earth's Space Defense Force. "I'm proposing we show them what happens when you attack humanity," Amara said. "The Confederation wants proportional response. They want us to destroy one fleet. I'm going to give them something else. I'm going to give them certainty. I'm going to make sure no species ever attacks human civilians again." A representative from Europa Station stood up. "You're talking about the Jathir homeworld." "Yes," Amara said simply. The chamber erupted again. Half the room was shouting in support. The other half was shouting in horror. Amara waited for them to quiet down. "This isn't about revenge," she said. "This is about survival. If we respond proportionally, if we just destroy their fleet, what happens? In 10 years, someone else attacks. In 20 years, someone else. They'll keep testing us until they find our breaking point. But if we show them what we're capable of now, If we make an example that the galaxy will never forget, then our children and grandchildren will live in peace. You're talking about genocide, someone said quietly. I'm talking about war, Amara replied. The Jothir started this war when they killed 3,200 civilians. They chose to make us their enemy. Now they'll learn what that means. She turned to Admiral Harrison. How fast can you mobilize the fleet? The Admiral stood up. For the first time since the meeting began, he smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. We can have 300 warships ready to move in 72 hours. Several representatives gasped. 300? I thought we only had 50 ships in the Defense Force. That's what we told the Confederation, Admiral Harrison said. In reality, we've been building a military fleet since the day we joined the galactic community. We learned about every war in Confederation history. We studied every tactic, every weapon, every mistake. We built our ships in secret, disguising military stations as civilian infrastructure. We've been preparing for this day since we first met alien species. He pulled up displays showing the true extent of human military power, ships with weapons the Confederation had never seen, relativistic kinetic impactors that could strike at near light speed, quantum disruption torpedoes that could tear apart matter at the molecular level, nanoswarm missiles that could consume entire vessels. We hoped we'd never need them, Harrison said. We hoped our desire for peace would be respected. But we prepared for the worst. Amara addressed the council one more time. I'm going to address the Confederation tomorrow. I'm going to formally withdraw from their mediation. Then I'm going to send Admiral Harrison and his fleet to the Jothir homeworld. They will eliminate the Jothir military. Then they will eliminate the Jothir homeworld. Questions? What about the Jothir civilians? Asked a young representative from Luna Colony. They didn't choose this. Their government attacked us, not their people. Amara looked at her steadily. The Kepler Station civilians didn't choose this either. They were mining and studying and raising their children. The Jothir killed them anyway. The Jothir chose this path. Now they'll walk it to the end. That night, Amara called Marcus Webb's grandfather. His name was Professor David Webb, and he taught military history at Oxford University. She expected him to be broken, destroyed by his grandson's death. Instead, his voice was calm and cold. I've been giving interviews, he told her, telling the galaxy about human history. I think they need to understand what they've awakened. What are you telling them? Amara asked. The truth, Professor Webb said, that we're not a peaceful species that learned to explore. We're a warlike species that learned to restrain ourselves. That for every year of peace in our history, we have 10 years of war. That we offered them friendship not because we're weak, but because we know what war costs. He paused. I'm also telling them that they should have accepted our friendship, because now they're going to learn why we offered it in the first place. The interview went viral across human space within hours. Within days, it had been translated into 47 languages and broadcast across the Confederation. Professor Webb became the voice of humanity's rage. In one memorable segment, an alien reporter asked him if humanity wasn't overreacting. The old professor looked directly into the camera. My grandson died yesterday. He was 23 years old. He liked old movies and terrible coffee. He called his mother every week. The Jothir killed him while he was trying to warn people. They killed him and they laughed about it. The professor's voice never rose, never showed emotion. That made it more terrifying. So no, we're not overreacting. We're showing the galaxy who we really are. We're the species that survived ice ages and plagues. We're the species that split the atom and touched the stars. We're the species that almost destroyed ourselves 3 times and came back stronger. He leaned forward. The Jothir poked a sleeping dragon. Now they're going to burn. Admiral Kenji Tanaka stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, watching his fleet assemble. 300 ships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and military science. They bore names from Earth's bloodiest battles: Thermopylae, Stalingrad, Normandy, Agincourt, Waterloo, Gettysburg. His second-in-command, Captain Sarah Martinez, approached. All ships report ready, sir. We can jump in 30 minutes. Good, Tanaka said. He was a quiet man, descended from Japanese and Brazilian ancestors. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck of Kepler Station, watching the orange sun rise over the mining colony below. She had been in charge of this outpost for 3 years now, and she loved every moment of it. The station orbited peacefully around Kepler 442b, a small planet rich in minerals that humanity needed for building new ships and colonies. Life on the station was simple and good. 3,200 people called this place home. There were miners who worked on the planet's surface, scientists who studied the local plants and rocks, engineers who kept everything running, and families with children who went to school in the station's educational wing. Elena knew most of them by name. She attended their birthday parties, their weddings, and she helped settle their small disputes. Dr. James Chen walked up beside her, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Elena and smiled. James was the chief xenobiologist, which meant he studied alien life forms. On Kepler 442b, he mostly studied simple organisms like bacteria and small creatures that looked like purple mushrooms. "Beautiful morning," James said, taking a sip of his coffee. "Every morning is beautiful out here," Elena replied. "Sometimes I forget we're on the edge of explored space. It feels so peaceful." James nodded, but his smile faded a bit. "Have you heard back from Earth Command about those scout ships?" Elena's expression darkened. For the past 3 weeks, her station had detected unknown vessels entering and leaving their system. The ships never came close enough for visual identification, but their energy signatures matched those of the Jathir Empire. The Jathir were an insectoid species, looking somewhat like giant praying mantises with armored shells. They had a reputation for being aggressive and territorial. "Nothing yet," Elena said. "The message won't reach Earth for another week. You know how it is out here. We're 40 light-years from home. Communication takes time." "What about the Confederation?" James asked. The Galactic Confederation was a group of 47 alien species who worked together to keep peace in the galaxy. Humanity had joined them 80 years ago after making first contact with an alien probe near Jupiter. "I sent 3 reports to the Confederation," Elena said, her voice showing frustration. "They said the Jathir have every right to scout in neutral space. They told me not to worry. They said I was being paranoid." James shook his head. "The older species don't take us seriously. We're still the newcomers to them. We've only been in space for 200 years. They've been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Being new doesn't mean we're stupid," Elena muttered. Down in the communications center, young Marcus Webb sat at his console, monitoring all the frequencies. Marcus was only 23 years old, fresh from Earth. This was his first assignment off-world, and he loved it. He wrote long messages to his family back in Seattle, telling them about the amazing things he saw every day. Marcus adjusted his headset and frowned. There was something odd on the long-range sensors. Multiple contacts just at the edge of detection range. He increased the sensitivity and felt his blood run cold. 12 ships, big ones. They were dropping out of faster-than-light travel, appearing in normal space like sharks emerging from dark water. "Commander Vasquez to communications immediately," Marcus said into his comlink, trying to keep his voice steady. Elena arrived within 2 minutes, James right behind her. Marcus pointed at his screen. 12 contacts, ma'am. They just appeared from FTL. They're heading straight for us." Elena leaned over his shoulder, studying the data. Her face went pale. "Battle configuration. Those are warships, Jathir," James asked. "Has to be," Elena said. "Marcus, send a distress signal. All frequencies. Emergency priority." Marcus's fingers flew across his console. Signal sent. "But ma'am, the nearest human ship is 6 days away. Earth won't get the message for a week." Elena straightened up. "Activate the station's defense systems. Sound the general alarm. Get everyone to emergency stations." The alarm began to wail throughout the station. People stopped what they were doing and ran to their assigned positions. Parents grabbed their children. Teachers led students to reinforced shelters. Miners on the planet's surface scrambled into shuttles to return to the station. Elena ran to the command center. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Tom Parker, was already there, bringing the station's weapons online. Kepler Station wasn't a military base. It had a few laser cannons meant for destroying asteroids and space debris. Against 12 warships, they would be like throwing stones at tanks. "Lieutenant, get all the shuttles ready for evacuation," Elena ordered. "There's not enough room," Tom said quietly. "We have 42 shuttles. They can hold maybe 800 people total. We have 3,200 on this station." Elena closed her eyes for a moment. She knew this. She had always known this. Civilian stations weren't built for war. They were built for hope and progress. Get the children on first, then anyone else who can fit. The Jathir fleet grew larger on their screens. Elena opened a communication channel. Attention Jothir vessels. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of Kepler Station. We are a civilian research facility. We are not a military target. Please state your intentions. For a long moment there was only silence. Then the screen crackled to life. A Jothir appeared, his insectoid face filling the display. His compound eyes glittered with something that looked like contempt. This was Grand Commander Zekthar, though Elena didn't know his name. Humans, the Jothir said, his voice translated by the computer. You infest our expansion path like parasites. You build your nest in space that belongs to the strong. You are weak. You are soft. You are emotional creatures who do not deserve the stars. We have children here, Elena said, fighting to keep her voice calm. Families, scientists, we're not soldiers. Under Confederation law, you cannot attack civilians. Zekthar made a sound that might have been laughter. The Confederation's laws are for species that matter. You are newcomers. You are nothing. Today we teach you your place in the galaxy. The transmission ended. Elena turned to her crew. Their faces showed fear, but also determination. These were good people. They deserved better than this. All weapons fire at will, Elena commanded. Make them work for it. The station's laser cannons opened fire. The beam struck the lead Jothir warship, but its shields absorbed the damage easily. The Jothir returned fire. Their weapons were designed for war. Plasma bolts smashed into the station's hull, tearing through metal and composite materials like paper. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 47 minutes. The small shuttles tried to escape, but Jothir fighters hunted them down. The mining vessels on the surface tried to fight back with their industrial lasers. They were destroyed within minutes. Marcus stayed at his communications console, sending updates as long as he could. This is Kepler Station. We are under attack by Jothir forces. They're killing everyone. Please, someone help us. Please. He was recording a personal message to his family when the plasma bolt hit his section. The message cut off mid-sentence. Elena stood on the command deck as fire spread through the station. Alarms screamed. The hull was breaching in 17 places. Half her crew was already dead. She could hear screaming through the comlinks. She opened one final transmission on all frequencies. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of Kepler Station. To any human ship that receives this message, they killed us all. 3,200 civilians. They did it to send a message. They did it because they think we're weak. The command deck shook as another explosion tore through the station. Elena gripped her console. Tell Earth, tell them what happened here. Tell them. The transmission ended as Kepler Station broke apart. Debris and bodies scattered into space. The Jothir fleet held position for another hour, making sure nothing survived. Then Grand Commander Zekthar recorded the massacre and transmitted it to the Galactic Confederation. Let this be a lesson, he said in his broadcast. Humanity is not ready for the stars. We have done the galaxy a service today. The Jothir fleet jumped back into faster-than-light travel, leaving nothing but wreckage and silence behind. In the cold vacuum of space, 3,200 stories ended. Miners who would never finish their shifts, scientists who would never publish their discoveries, teachers who would never see their students graduate, children who would never grow up, and 40 light-years away, Earth had no idea what had just happened. The distress signal was still traveling through space, carrying news of an atrocity that would change everything.